Hi, my name is Casey Walker. I'm an attorney and the founder of VA Disability Group. Today we're going to be talking about static and permanent disability evaluations. So a lot of veterans use the term permanent and total, permanent and total, permanent and total. Those are magic words. We're not talking about the total aspect here. We're talking about the permanent, the static. All right, so make sure we're filtering out the total for now. We're only talking about static. The VA does have considerable discretion to determine whether a veteran's condition is static. That is to suggest that there's no likelihood of improvement. That's not a fight we really have a lot of wiggle room in. The VA has that discretion. The point of this video is to discuss what regulations and policies the VA is supposed to be following in order to determine whether someone should be static. And then next we're going to discuss the actions a veteran should take if their condition is determined to have a likelihood of improvement. So let's dive right into it. We're going to look at 38 CFR 3.327. And specifically here, we're looking at the guidelines that the VA has to determine whether someone should be permanent or static. Oftentimes, those are synonymous, meaning they're similar terms used interchangeably. Static, permanent, it means there's no likelihood of improvement, therefore there's no future re-examination by the VA that's currently scheduled. So the guidelines, here's what the guidelines say, that the condition persisted without improvement for 5 years or more. That's number one. Number two, the nature of disability is permanent in nature. So maybe you're looking at multiple sclerosis, maybe you're looking at epilepsy, maybe an arthritic condition, which aren't usually prone to improving. Next, the third element is going to be someone who's 55 years of age or older. And we have a separate video that discusses this in more detail, and the link's provided in the description. And fourth, we're looking at regulations prescribe a minimum rating. So for example, if a veteran has a knee replacement and they give the veteran the minimum compensable evaluation of 30%, the adjudicator can't schedule the veteran for a future examination because the law requires a minimum of 30%. So he's already receiving the minimum, so a future examination would be futile. Another example would be a hip replacement. A lot of the joints have minimum requirements. And then lastly, and this is a little tricky, where the combined evaluation is not affected. Where the VA's combined evaluation is not affected. Now, I have a separate video on VA math if you want to understand what the term combined evaluation is. But to make it simple, it's using VA math, your total evaluation rounded up or down to 10% increments. So in this example, if a veteran is evaluated at 81%, they're going to be paid at the 80% rate. And let's say that veteran has a 70% evaluation for PTSD, a 30% evaluation for asthma, and a 10% evaluation for a skin condition, dermatitis. The adjudicator cannot schedule a future examination for that skin condition if that evaluation will not, total combined evaluation will not be reduced or increased. If they were to reduce the veteran's 10% skin condition to 0%, that veteran's overall evaluation, instead of being 81%, would be 79%. In both instances, the veteran's still at 80%, and this is exactly what this regulation or this aspect of the regulation is discussing. If it's not going to change the overall evaluation, then they should not schedule a future exam for one specific condition. So those are the guidelines that the VA adjudicator and decision makers have in order to determine whether to schedule a veteran for a future examination. And if you're not scheduled for a future examination, it means your condition is static or permanent. So one question we get routinely is, well, how do I know if I'm static? How do I know if I'm permanent? Like, where does the VA tell me that? And leave it to the VA to not affirmatively tell a veteran that. So it's actually quite elusive and frustrating because the VA doesn't come out and say your condition is static. You got to dig in a little bit. So let's do that right now. Let's take a look at a redacted example of a future examination, because you're not going to see if you have a static condition. You're going to know if your condition is static because of the lack of a future examination. So in this instance, we're looking at a redacted example of an award for post-traumatic stress disorder, where the VA awarded a 50% evaluation. So look closely at the second bullet point, where it says, since there is a likelihood of improvement, the assigned evaluation is not considered permanent and is subject to a future review examination. This is the language that tells you whether you're going to have a re-examination or not. If this language isn't there, that means your condition's static. They won't say your condition's static. You just won't see that future examination, review examination language. So that's how you know. It's not that they're going to tell you you're static. Now, I would say 75% of the time conditions are static. You'll know if it's not static because this language will be there. Now let's take a look at one other document Now, a lot of veterans won't get this document, but their VSOs or attorney representatives often do get this document. It's called a rating decision code sheet. And on this code sheet, you'll see that future examination October of 2021 was specifically scheduled at the outset of this evaluation being assigned. Yet again, this is another way to determine whether your condition is static or whether there's a future examination. So I hope that's helpful, but that's how you really determine whether your condition is static or not static. Now, one other way that veterans will know if their condition is static is oftentimes the VA will award Dependent Educational Assistance, otherwise known as DEA. That is not awarded unless you have a permanent evaluation. But here's the caveat. Permanent evaluation, that's permanent and total. So I told you at the outset, we're not focusing on total. But if you see DEA, it means that you're not going to have a future exam because you're permanent. So that means total as well. So just kind of forget about the total aspect. But if you are awarded Dependent Educational Assistance, it means your condition is permanent and total. So those are really the three ways. You can look at the code sheet, you can look at the rating decision itself, or you can see that you've been awarded Dependent Educational Assistance. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you found this helpful. If you like this video, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Comment below. Have a good day.